Donald Trump has announced the withdrawal of 2,000 ground troops in Syria, and in typical Trump fashion, he didn't give most people a warning that he was planning on doing this, and it has led to some congressional Republicans lashing out at Trump. And this is one of the rare situations where I agree with Donald Trump. So I'm amused by congressional Republicans who are usually funded by private contractors that are involved in these wars, to push for additional war or perpetual war. Now, with that said, let me give you the details of what Trump plans on doing. He has ordered a speedy exit for about 2,000 American forces in Syria that one US official said could unfold over the next 30 days. So the decision would actually be a reversal from previous stated US policy. And that previous stated US policy is perpetual war, right? Let's remain in Syria to defeat ISIS. That was the official reason for being in Syria. But of course, Syria did serve as a proxy war with the United States involved in order to combat Iran. Now, the US has long stated that it would remain in Syria until the Islamic State was defeated and local forces could prevent a new rise of extremist forces, and to press Iran to withdraw all of its military forces from the country. Now, all of those goals have not been accomplished, although ISIS has lost quite a bit of ground in Syria. There are about 2,000 ISIS fighters remaining in Syria, but there are some conflicting reports on that. Now, Trump had tweeted about this and said the following: "We have defeated ISIS in Syria, my only reason for being there during the Trump presidency." Now, let me give you a few more details and then Cenk will jump in. US withdrawal of ground forces could fulfill a major goal of Syria, Iran, and Russia, and risks diminishing US influence in the region.
That's framed by CNN.
That is framed by CNN.
We don't agree to that. That's CNN doing op-ed work in the middle of a so-called factual article.
Yes,
and that's fine. It's as long as you're willing to call out other things the same, but you're not. So let's just note that that was heavy with opinion.
So I wanted to give you guys that portion of CNN's reporting for two reasons. I think that is a half of that statement is actually accurate, right? So Russia very much wants the United States to pull out. And I think it's important for you guys to know that, but that was a 100% at the end commentary by CNN because, again, I mean, the mainstream media for some reason cares a lot about our influence in other regions of the world, right?
Yeah, but our meddling in the Middle East and our nonstop wars in the Middle East have done nothing but diminish our influence in the world. They have not increased our influence in the world, but CNN assumes the Raytheon position, which is the only way you gain influence is by staying in these conflicts forever and ever while I continue to make a ton of money. Thank you, CNN, we appreciate it. So look, it's not just to pick on CNN. Unfortunately, most of the mainstream media has those same built-in assumptions. It's groupthink. It's not like the writer of this particular article called Raytheon ahead of time. No, just in Washington, they assume war is awesome, can be permanently financed. You never ask how much it costs. If you actually want to do anything for the American people, oh yeah, how much does that cost, right? And that if you ever withdraw from war, that it's going to reduce America and aid its enemies. That is preposterous. In fact, all those wars in the Middle East have done the exact opposite. They have reduced our influence and aided our enemies because we went to war, not because we withdrew. Okay, so now let's talk about why Donald Trump is doing this and whether we're in favor of it, okay? So, why now is the question that really pops up in my mind. So he says, well, we've defeated ISIS, so let's wrap it up. Now, hold on. Number one, that's of course overstating it. But overall, ISIS is greatly diminished. So I'm surprised he hasn't bragged about that more, to be honest with you, okay? But there is no moment now where there was an event that led you to believe ISIS is done. Earlier, we had taken some critical towns. There's one town left that is still held by ISIS by about 2,000 fighters, we think. That's of course an estimate because reporting in Syria is really hard. Other reports say that it could be spread out across Syria and Iraq, still 30,000 ISIS fighters, but they have been dealt a serious blow.
Can I jump in? Because I want to make sure you know where that 30,000 number comes from. It comes from the State Department. It comes from the Defense Department. It comes from the very people who have been very much either complicit or in favor of perpetual war. So the 30,000 number, I'm not putting too much weight behind it because I think that there are certain biases behind the scenes that have led to that inflated number.
Yeah, so, and that's great context, Anna. I really appreciate that. That's exactly right. Now, if we had taken the last ISIS-held town and then Trump said, okay, we're done, well, that would be connected to Syria and somewhat logical. Him doing it right now raises a red flag. And let me tell you two other things that are happening at the same time that might or might not influence what's happening here. We have a $3.5 billion arms deal with Turkey. Well, now, Turkey does not want us to stay in Syria either. They're very mad that we've basically armed and trained the Kurdish forces there that, yes, fight against ISIS, but Turkey believes also fights against Turkey. So, hey, I give you $3.5 billion, you give me some weapons and then get the hell out of Syria. It is entirely possible. It's not like Donald Trump doesn't have a track record of letting people control our foreign policy based on arms deals. He brags about it. He says, Saudi Arabia gave me an arms deal. I let him chop up a journalist that was living in America. So that is certainly a possibility. Another possibility is also just announced, the Treasury Department is taking away sanctions from United Co-Rosal. That is the second largest aluminum company in the world. It is based out of Russia, and it is run and owned by Oleg Deripaska, one of the top Russian oligarchs. In fact, the same oligarch that paid Paul Manafort $10 million a year for 3 years. Deripaska says, oh, I'm now reducing my interest in the company. It's okay, I'll only own 49% of it or so, right? And so I don't know if that's just purely a shell game or there's some truth to that. Hard to tell with Russian oligarchs, with the reporting out of Russia. But Trump says, good enough, yes. That Russian company that funneled whose founder or at least owner funneled all that money to my buddy Manafort. Well, I've been dying to lift sanctions from Russia, so I'm going to lift that sanction. Those sanctions were devastating to the oligarchs. That company lost half its value since the sanctions were put into place 7 months ago, and it was a $9.2 billion company. So, could it be that Trump is giving Russia a couple of things here? Hey, I'll withdraw from Syria. I'll end the sanctions on this incredibly important and valuable aluminum company owned by a Russian oligarch. Could it be that it's part of a deal with Turkey? Could it be both? Could be all of the above. What it's not is Trump waking up one day and going, are we done with Syria? I don't know, I'm really itching to get out of Syria. I think I'm gonna do it now, right? No, there's definitely something else related to it. But that's important. I don't want to say who cares. We need to track that because if it involves corruption, we don't want him making decisions for the wrong reasons because he's influenced by other countries and his own financial interest. Having said that, I'm thrilled with the decision. So I don't care if you call it a loss or a win for Trump. I don't care about those silly political games. So I think we should withdraw from Syria. And if he's withdrawing from Syria, bottom line on the policy, fantastic. Let's get the hell out of there.
Yeah, it's really interesting how Trump will carry out policies that conflict based on his previous policies, solely based on financial interests, right? So look, again, we can't say with 100% certainty that he was persuaded by his financial interests in this case, but the arms deal with Turkey, I think, raises a red flag. And also, Trump has been very favorable to Israel, the Israeli government. But in this move, he's actually going against what the Israeli government wants because the Israeli government is very much concerned about Iran. Trump is also allegedly concerned about Iran, which is why we're involved in Yemen, right? We're helping with the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen, and we're going after, Iranian influences there. But in this case, I want to just quickly go to graphic 12 because according to reporting from the Wall Street Journal, Israeli officials see America's presence in Syria as a key Iran deterrent and say they fear the consequences if they leave. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. And who knows, maybe Trump will stand his ground when it comes to this decision, but he's also the type of person who goes back and forth. And even though he's made a very strong decision here, he's known to make strong decisions and again, backtrack later based on whatever influences are behind the scenes. Now, one other thing I want to mention is that there are members of, of the federal government who remain defiant on this issue. And that could be interesting to see. Let's go to graphic 11. According to a senior White House official, as reported by the Wall Street Journal, US forces will continue to fight against ISIS. We will continue to use tools of national power, including economic sanctions and diplomatic pressure, as leverage to press for the withdrawal of Iranian-backed forces. Iran knows the US stands ready to re-engage at all levels to defend American interests. So there's that, and then there's also people like Senator Lindsey Graham, who is outraged by this, who has already gone on the record and made multiple statements about how this is something that he should have, Trump should have advised with Senate Republicans on, and he thinks that this is a complete and utter chaos, and they should have been notified of this decision. Not buying his arguments at all. But
so look, here's a situation where to some degree it is Trump versus the deep state, and it's systemic corruption in the deep state versus personal corruption in Donald Trump. I'm not on either side. I can't stand either side of those. So, but you can tell that Trump defied the powers that be because, and of course, as usual, made a surprising decision that he didn't clue anybody else in on, because just earlier this month, the US military had put out a statement saying, any reports indicating a change in the US position with respect to US military presence in Syria is, quote, false and designed to sow confusion and chaos. Well, apparently that's what Donald Trump just did, because that's a change in US position. And so I don't agree with the US military that it's going to cause confusion and chaos. One more piece of context. We have 2,000 troops in Syria. We have 5,000 in Iraq. The 5,000 in Iraq are staying, and they could help with whatever attacks we are doing in Syria, and we continue to do. We've helped in hundreds of bombing raids just this month still in Syria. And we can still bomb from Iraq. So it's not like we're withdrawing from the world. The Lindsey Grahams and the neoconservatives that are obviously still in the administration with their histrionics, I'm like, oh my God, if we ever withdraw a single person, we will all crumble into the sea. What have you done? No. You're all corrupt. Either, probably both, because of the Israeli lobby and more importantly, the defense industry lobby, and that they feed Lindsey Graham. He's become gluttonous with money from those groups. So Trump definitely did this out of nowhere, definitely did it for his own reasons. It would be shocking if it was connected to policy. I can't remember the last time Trump did that. But the reaction of the establishment is arguably even worse. So bottom line is, if you're a progressive, you should be thrilled that we're getting out of Syria, but keep your eye on the ball too on people's motivations, because it could be relevant on whether they're working in our interests, the US interests, or someone else's. Like what you see? Click the subscribe button below, and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from the Young Turks.